You're watching WUFT-TV News.
The watches are now warnings for parts of North Florida. The same winter storm that has slammed the southeast and created gridlock on highways is now approaching North Florida tonight. And get this, the mixture of ice and snow has reached as far south as the Big Bend in Florida this afternoon, as we've seen in these photos shown on the screen from an FSU student. Good evening, I'm Lauren Rautenkranz.
And I'm Stephen Gallo. We have live team coverage tracking the winter storm in north central Florida this evening. UF forecaster Deborah Alberto is live on the University of Florida campus, keeping an eye on conditions outside. And UF Chief Meteorologist Jeff Huffman is keeping a close eye on radar from the WRUF Weather Center. And we now first turn to Jeff. Jeff, where is that freezing line now?
Well, Lauren, it was moving quickly through the Panhandle, but it put on the brakes this afternoon. It's sitting just to the north and to the west, but it will likely move back to the south later tonight. A live look at storm track radar shows we still have precipitation falling across parts of North Florida, but there has been a break in the activity. It's now moving back in north and west of that white dotted line. You can see that's where some sleet mixed in earlier, but temperatures were not below freezing. It's north and west of that red line up near Tallahassee where sub-freezing air has moved. It is stalled now, but it's going to start moving back to the south. This is a wider perspective of what happened earlier today. The precipitation broke apart some this afternoon, but we're still watching this winter storm closely, and it's not done yet. Yes, North Florida has missed the worst. It's been across the border into Georgia, but a new area of low pressure is developing here in the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico that will send this moisture back in our direction, and the cold air will start marching southward again tonight. Check out your temperatures. It's all about where that freezing line sets up. It looks like the I-10 corridor, where those warnings are now in effect, is where the sub-freezing temperatures could be, and there could be some minor ice accumulation on some roadways. It's not just the actual temperature, though, today that's caused problems. It has been a cold day, even a record-setting day. Your forecaster Deborah Alberto has been checking out those conditions outside. Deborah, how bad does it feel out there this afternoon, and how has it had an impact already on Floridians?
Thanks, Jeff. It is very chilly. As you can see, I am dressed from head to toe. I am bundled up, as is everybody else around here. Even though we didn't reach that freezing line here, temperatures are currently into the upper 30s, 37 degrees, but that wind chill is at 31, so it is very cold outdoors. As you can see, the temperatures did not really budge for most of the day, and we broke that record low high set back in 1961 at 45 degrees. We only hit 44, and that was early this morning. You can see we struggled to even reach that 40-degree mark. We'll have more team coverage on this winter storm coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Jeff and Deborah. This winter storm has been affecting drivers in several states where snow, icy roads, and wet roads have slowed traffic or brought it to a complete halt.
That's right. Even in Florida, drivers are having trouble getting where they need to go. WUFT's Lauren Verno joins us now live from the newsroom with more on that. Lauren.
Thanks, Stephen. I've talked to several people who are traveling today, and some of them saw frozen roads and bridges on the western side of the Panhandle, forcing them to take detours from their normal routes.
North, I talked to some guys up in Georgia, and he was saying how his bird bath has been frozen over.
And some roads are frozen over too. Here in Madison County, that's coming tonight. Travelers are already seeing it in the Panhandle.
I did see the roads actually being frozen over, because when we were walking around out there and stuff like that, I kind of almost slipped. So,
in order to protect drivers, roads are being closed as weather conditions worsen. Officials are saying the best thing to do is to stay off the pavement.
Trying to do the best good for the people and not put them in harm's way. We don't want to get them out on the roads because they feel like they have to come to work, or students going to school. We don't want to put any parents in danger or the school bus drivers in danger.
It's already freezing temperatures, and the schools are already closed. They're unsure whether schools will be closed for the next week. However, what they do know is that the temperature's getting worse.
The temperatures will go for sure below freezing tonight.
Schools will be closed tomorrow in Columbia, Suwannee, Baker, Nassau, Bradford, Lafayette, and Union counties.
Thanks, Lauren. The winter storm is also causing airport shutdowns and flight cancellations. From Atlanta to Gainesville, airline passengers have been left stranded and frustrated by the severe weather conditions. The Southeast has taken quite a hit from Mother Nature, causing numerous flight cancellations and delays, as well as the closure of the Atlanta airport, with the world's busiest airport being shut down until Friday morning. Travelers flying in and out of Gainesville are getting stranded. Others got stuck in Gainesville after first getting stuck in Atlanta.
We're supposed to fly out around 9 a.m. and about 6:15 they canceled the flight. So we got on the phone and tried to reschedule, and so the closest thing was at Gainesville. So we've driven now to Gainesville and are hoping this one doesn't get canceled, because if it does, then we'll miss our cruise and we won't be able to go.
Until the weather clears up, passengers are encouraged to plan alternate routes to their final destinations.
And from the airport to the roadways, Atlanta has really taken a brunt of this winter storm. Thousands of vehicles are still stuck on roads and highways in the area, as you can see here. Wow, some since this time yesterday that they've been there. Some drivers have abandoned their vehicles. Many others spent the night in their cars. And hundreds of children didn't spend the night in their beds either. About 100 kids woke up here at E. Revers Elementary School after roads were too dangerous for school buses to run. Governor Nathan Deal has now issued a state of emergency for all counties in Georgia.
The Alachua County Coalition for the Homeless and Hungry is conducting its annual point-in-time survey. Volunteers from different agencies as well as homeless volunteers hit the streets at 5 a.m. to count homeless people for their survey. WUFT's Lisa Greenberg joins us with more. Lisa, you spent the day watching the count take place. How did it go?
Lauren, there were about 50 people counting heads today. They were talking to homeless people living on the streets and those found in shelters. In addition to the raw count, volunteers are asking homeless people questions about their situations and what got them to where they are now.
It's more than just a head count.
It tells a picture of who's homeless and who's on the street. A lot of the people that are homeless you don't really see, and we try to bring that forward in the survey.
Through this survey, the coalition can find the age, gender, family situation, and veteran status of the homeless in Alachua County. It also determines what services people need.
We've been able to find the problems. We're struggling still to tackle them. We're running into more people that are newly homeless, people that we haven't encountered before.
Lowe expects the number of homeless to increase with this count. But with the upcoming transformation of the former Gainesville Correctional Institution into the Homeless Empowerment Center, Lowe hopes to see a decrease in homeless residents by 2015. Volunteer Terry Fleming says the survey is crucial to helping the homeless problem in Gainesville, but adds that he gets something out of helping with the survey too.
There's, a certain amount of gratitude that I have to be able to help folks that need it.
Every year the coalition conducts the survey, and this year the process is a little different. Today's extremely cold weather has driven more of Gainesville's homeless inside shelters, making it more difficult for volunteers to find people to survey on the streets. But Lowe is confident the numbers won't be affected by the weather.
The raw numbers from the count on the streets will be available tonight. The shelter numbers will take a little longer to tally. The full report is expected to be completed in April. Reporting live from the newsroom, Lisa Greenberg, WUFT News.
Thanks, Lisa. Pay negotiations between the City of Gainesville and RTS bus drivers are at an impasse. The city has offered a 1.5% pay increase, but the union wants a gradual pay scale plan. Gainesville RTS drivers are currently some of the lowest paid transit workers in Florida. Both parties will now meet with an arbitrator. And Florida Governor Rick Scott announced his budget proposal today for the 2014-2015 fiscal year. Scott's proposal includes more than $500 million in tax cuts for Florida families, eliminating government waste, and reducing state debt. The governor says his new budget would make a record investment of about $19 billion in K-12 education, in which is the highest total in Florida history. And a special election is in the works to fill Florida's District 19 congressional seat that includes Fort Myers and Naples. Trey Raydell resigned that seat on Monday, months after he was arrested for buying cocaine from an undercover officer. This likely means a primary and then a general election, with taxpayers footing the bill that is expected to top $1.5 million.
The Royal Caribbean cruise ship, on which almost 700 people fell ill, has arrived at its home port in New Jersey. Passengers wrapped in blankets stood on deck to watch the ship pull in today. Health investigators suspect norovirus, but say lab results are not expected until later this week. WUFT News at 6 is just beginning. Coming up after the break, President Obama delivered his State of the Union address last night.
We'll recap the speech and what the president said about the Affordable Health Care Act.
And I'm Leanna Scacchetti, live in the newsroom. Coming up, one of Florida representatives thinks lawmakers should spend more time in the office. I'll have the details after this.
But first, here's a look at how the market ended today. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Welcome back. We want to briefly recap the school districts in our viewing area that will be closed tomorrow due to the cold weather.
They include Lafayette, Columbia, Sewanee, Baker, Eccles, Nassau, Bradford, Union, Hamilton, and Madison counties. Again, schools in these counties are closed tomorrow due to the cold weather.
And a Florida legislator thinks lawmakers should spend more time in office.
Representative Keith Perry of Gainesville is proposing a bill extending term limits for state lawmakers. Perry wants lawmakers to be able to stay in office for up to 12 years. WUFT's Leanna Scacchetti joins us from our newsroom with more on this story. Leanna, why does Representative Perry think it's so essential that the term limits are extended?
Well, Lauren, when we spoke with him today, he said simply that he thinks legislators just don't have enough time in office. The way he sees it, as soon as lawmakers understand the process and the system of their job, it's time for them to leave. His bill would also extend terms for House members from 2 to 4 years and terms for senators from 4 to 6. Since the constitutional amendment in 1992, however, created 8-year term limits, all other attempts to change that have died. If approved, this bill would create a referendum for voters to then decide on term limits. For now, Perry says he's just looking forward to discussion on the issue. If you would like more on this story and to hear reaction from the president of U.S. term limits, you can join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Florida's 89.1 WUFT-FM. Back to you, Stephen and Lauren.
Thanks, Leanna. The Federal Reserve is saying it will cut its monthly bond purchases by an additional $10 billion because of a strengthening U.S. economy. It says it's doing so even though the prospect of reduced Fed stimulus and higher U.S. interest rates has rattled global markets. The Fed also reaffirmed its plan to keep short-term rates at record lows. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke will step down Friday after serving 8 years in the position.
And President Obama delivered his 5th State of the Union address last night, vowing to move forward on issues important to him. Obama pushed lawmakers to revive stalled legislation on immigration reform and extend emergency benefits for the long-term unemployed. As for the affordable health care, he says the law is working and urged the uninsured to enroll. He also spoke about raising the hourly minimum wage for new federal contract workers. The president began selling his State of the Union message on the road today. And he visited suburban Maryland to begin his campaign for higher minimum wages. The president toured the Costco in the city of Lanham, driving home to his argument that businesses who pay higher wages can improve their bottom line. Costco already pays its employees well above the current minimum wages. Workers there start out at about $11.50 an hour, and the average hourly wage is more than $20.
And a 5-year, multi-billion-dollar farm bill is one step closer to becoming law today. The House passed the measure by a large margin, but a majority of Democrats opposed it. The legislation was more than a year in the making and including more than $8 billion in cuts to the food stamp program. The bill also eliminates a $4.5 billion a year subsidy program, which offered direct payment to farmers. Now we're going to switch gears back now to weather and turn over to Jeff for what's coming up next. Jeff.
Line very closely as it marches into north central Florida. Temperatures tonight likely to fall below the freezing mark for a few locations. But even if you don't fall below the freezing mark, we still could have some sleet in a few spots in north central Florida. Such a busy weather day. We'll have team coverage. UF forecaster Deborah Alberto has an update on the cold conditions, and UF forecaster Sean Bellafiore is tracking a much needed warm-up. It's all coming up next with weather. We continue to track this winter storm as it moves into north central Florida tonight, the northern part of our viewing area. I'm talking to you if you live in Lake City, Live Oak, up towards Stark, Lake Butler. You might have to deal with some icy roads overnight and early tomorrow morning. Very fluid situation here, a developing weather story, because we actually have another area of low pressure moving into the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico. So here's the satellite and radar from earlier today. The freezing line was moving south, but then it put on the brakes there in the Panhandle because of the upper level winds starting to shift. Those upper level winds coming out of the Gulf of Mexico are going to steer a new area of low pressure in our direction. And you can see this on the satellite and radar. Watch this. In the last few hours, you can see the moisture starting to increase here, and there's a new wave of energy, and it's going to be moving right up into north central Florida. The question is, how far south and east will this freezing line move? We're at the very end of this cold snap. Literally starting tonight, we start to warm up aloft, which will bring in the warmer air for the weekend. But before that happens, areas shaded in blue, that is where the actual temperature might get below freezing briefly tonight, where there could be some slick spots on area roadways from freezing rain. Even if the freezing rain doesn't occur, a few locations may have some sleet as well. I'm going to show you why here in just a minute. But first, here's where the impacts could be on the roadways. Ice-covered roads to the north, possibly some bridges and overpasses and rural roads with some spotty slick spots late tonight. That's north of Gainesville. Now, even if we don't go below freezing, why could we still get sleet? Well, if it precipitates heavy enough late tonight, it would cool the entire atmosphere. So we've got some warm air sitting just above us, and if it precipitates heavy enough tonight, that precipitation will cool the entire column of the atmosphere and allow some of those sleet pellets to fall all the way to the ground. I think that still could happen for Alachua County, but it would be between midnight and about 4 a.m., but actual temperatures likely to stay above freezing when that happens. So that is some good news. I'm not anticipating significant road troubles for us from Alachua County southward. So just to recap, what you need to know if you live along the I-10 corridor, minor ice accumulation, especially elevated surfaces. We still might get a brief period of sleet here in Alachua County, but no accumulation. And from Marion County southward, it's all rain. It's not only the temperature causing problems, the wind chill also. Your forecaster, Deborah Alberto, has been enduring those this afternoon, has the latest on what it feels like outside and how cold it could get tonight. Deborah.
Thank you, Jeff. Again, as you can see, it is very gloomy outdoors. It's been overcast conditions all day long, and as Jeff did mention, we're not planning on reaching below the freezing line. It's currently 37 degrees out here. The wind chill right now is 31. It's only going to keep dropping further than that. Very cold conditions, and this isn't even including the rainfall. With more on that, we have UF forecaster Sean Bellafiore.
Thanks, Deborah. Well, we do have wind chill tracker. You can see, or actually our high temperatures. We're going to reach a high temperature of about 46 here in Gainesville, and that's all due to this northerly wind coming after this low moves. It's going to keep streaming on some cloud cover. That'll help to keep our temperatures down for our Thursday. All right, our big warm-up that we've been teasing, our 6-day outlook, you can see morning showers ending on Thursday. Friday into Saturday, check out this warm-up, 68 to 77. By Sunday, we're almost at 80. Showers do return to the forecast for Sunday and Monday, but we are warm. Feels like summer. Back to you guys.
Great team coverage. Thank you, guys. It has been about a month since a Florida Gator basketball freshman started practicing with the Gators.
That's right. You guessed it. We're talking Chris Walker again. Michael Espy joins us now for that, Mike.
Yeah, can all of the craziness end so I can finally get some sleep? Well, we'll tell you coming up in sports. Don't go anywhere. I'm predicting happy Gators fans. Sports is next. I'm Michael Espy with your tour of the sports world. Well, everyone was waiting. Some patiently, others not at all. Rumors circulated, but whatever the reasons were, the Florida Gators men's basketball team was without one of their star freshmen until today. This afternoon, after 1 month of practicing with the Gators basketball team, the NCAA has finally cleared freshman forward Chris Walker to play for the Gators. Walker, who had to sit out fall 2013 after being academically ineligible to play basketball, will be cleared to play this coming Tuesday night's contest with the Missouri Tigers. Donovan said Walker has improved tremendously and will see time on the court this season. The NCAA statement released today, men's basketball student athlete Chris Walker will be eligible to play for the University of Florida February 4th. After sitting a total of 12 games or 40% of the 2013-14 season, Walker received preferential treatment from 5 people, including 2 agents. In addition, Walker will be required to donate $270 received from the agents to a charity of his choice and serve 80 hours of community service for the remaining benefits received. According to the facts of the case, which were agreed upon by the university and NCAA staff, when Walker was a prospect, he accepted free cell phone service, airfare, lodging, meal, and apparel. Additionally, individuals close to Walker received free airfare and lodging for 9 different trips, including 8 associated with Walker's non-scholastic basketball team competitions. My goodness, Twitter went crazy after the announcement. Jones 757 says, with Chris Walker, Gators about to run the SEC. Florida Game Dayer says, Chris Walker is free. And London Watnick says, you can buy half a PS4 with all that money. Of course, talking about the $270 fine Walker has to pay. In SEC basketball action last night, Kentucky at LSU, and that's how they dressed in Louisiana. James Young with the alley-oop in the second half. All Tigers, Johnny O'Bryant III, his name straight out of a 50s movie. And later on, Tigers driving, then Andre Stringer happened. The Tigers upset 11th ranked Kentucky 87-82. And the biggest matchup this weekend in Gator sports is Florida Gymnastics showdown with the top-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. And we're now joined by Gators play-by-play announcer Corey Brooks. Corey, what do the Gators have to do to keep up their stellar effort this season against Oklahoma?
Well, you know what's crazy, Mike, is that Florida struggled last week against Georgia. Obviously, the floor routine with the 2 perfect 10s was a dominant performance for Rhonda Fain's squad. But the first 3 rotations had a lot of missed landings that would have cost them without that elite final rotation. Florida has to be on their game this weekend against #1 Oklahoma.
All right, Corey. So how did the Gators match up with these Oklahoma Sooners?
Well, Oklahoma comes in with a dominant road win over #17 Arizona, so the O-Dome's not going to scare them very much, and their senior Taylor Spears has gotten off to a really hot start for Boomer Sooner, and they have 3 freshmen that are difference makers. But luckily for the Gators, they have a pretty good squad with a couple dynamic freshmen themselves.
And that's Gators play-by-play announcer Corey Brooks. Thank you so much, Corey. And the second-ranked Florida Gators men's tennis team, by the way, guys, they defeated UCF today by a final score of 7-0.
And that game indoors, thankfully, for those poor fans.
Exactly.
That weather.
Thank goodness.
The players too, right? Can't blame them. All right, WUFT News at 6 is back in 90 seconds. Stay with us. Coming up after WUFT News at 6, the nightly business report will have in-depth coverage and analysis of the biggest financial stories of the day.
Then at 7 o'clock, more on the winter weather affecting the South and reactions from last night's State of the Union address from senators and viewers. The PBS NewsHour will have those stories and more at 7 o'clock right here on Florida's 5 WUFT-TV. And you know, Stephen, as a journalist covering severe weather, being out in the field, you can be exposed to a variety of elements. So let's just say you have to learn to expect the unexpected.
That is true. And you know what? The Weather Channel's Jim Cantori seems to have that down pretty well, Lauren. Take a look at this video making its rounds today. Cantori was in Charleston yesterday when this gentleman right here tries to crash the live shot. Didn't work out so well for him there, did it? Cantori goes on to finish his report without missing a beat. Man, you gotta respect professionalism like that.
You have to. Oh, poor Deborah. I hope she didn't have to handle any of that
That's
today.
right. Hopefully not as many crazy people here in Gainesville trying to wreck a shot.
That's right. So before we go, let's get one last check on the weather.
I might need to beef up a little more, don't I? We had bodyguards for Deborah out there, so we were good on the UF campus. All right, one last check of the radar. This is live storm track radar. We're going to continue our team coverage tonight on WRUF-TV in Alachua County. That's Cox Channel 6. Also on our Twitter account. This is kind of a developing situation, all right? The freezing line, yes, will not make it to Gainesville, so we're going to stay above freezing. But the question is, will it be cold enough for some of this moisture in the form of rain to actually come down as sleet? And that might occur as far south as the northern part of Alachua County, up near High Springs and Alachua Way. Up further to the north, there could be some freezing rain. Those areas in blue, that's where the roads are going to be really tricky late tonight. Areas in pink, a little less confidence on whether or not the roads will ice over. I'll leave you with some great news. Look at that forecast as Sean was tracking earlier. The warm-up begins not tomorrow, but Friday. And then we could be pushing 80 on Monday.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Looking forward to that warm weather. Thank you at home for watching WUFT News at 6, a production from UF's Innovation News Center.
We'll see you right here again tomorrow, and don't forget WUFT News is always on at WUFT.org. Good night and stay warm.
Good night.